I wonder why. I'm very new to this, and it's such a great honor for the school and for me to have you here. And I was listening to your Solitude CD on the way in and realized, I probably have done a lot of things, or have not done a lot of things that should have been done. So what I heard this morning was all activities in India begin with salutations to the teacher. And I didn't do that yesterday.
I did.
Guru's duty.
Yeah.
Right? So, so how could you let us know how we do that?
Yes. You want to do it in Sanskrit?
Yes. And then let us know what we're supposed to do, please. Thank you.
So we can start with that. We consider the Guru, the spiritual teacher, as the most important person in our lives, because it's the teacher who leads us on to the ultimate truth. So, before we start anything at all, we have different prayers, but one that is commonly used, basically it means that the Guru that you respect, who is in front of you in human form, is just a symbol of the, what you call, the ultimate teacher, who is the Supreme Being himself. So when you respect the teacher in front of you, you are actually respecting the infinite teacher, who is the Supreme Reality, in this form. So that's the only form you see before you. So that's the thing. So the teacher should also understand that they're not actually going down to him, but to the Supreme Being. So the prayer that I started with also yesterday, is Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanam Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Ishvara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri. This is the prayer. Now it means Akhanda Mandalakaram, which means in all the universes that are around, not just this earth, everywhere. You see, somehow we think that we are the only intelligent beings on this, in this Milky Way, which is infinite. Till 2 years ago, last year now, suddenly the astronomers have begun to say that there must be over 2,000 worlds which could be inhabited. Could be. It takes a long time for scientists to say are. They say could be many times. So we know and we believe that there are many realms and many worlds. So this prayer is to that teacher, that the seed of teaching, the origin of all teachings, which is the Supreme Being, who pervades entire universe, all the realms and all the worlds. So Akhanda Mandalakaram, all the mandalas means the different realms. Vyaptam Vena Characharam, who pervades everything and moves everywhere. Tat Padam Darshidam, whose feet may I perceive. Tasmai Shri, that Guru I bow down to. I bow down at the feet of that teacher, who is actually the all-pervading Supreme Being, who is there in all the realms and all the worlds. And then Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanam Shalakaya, to us who are in the darkness, ignorance, may he be the coryllium that opens the eyes. You know, like kajal, what do you call it? Eyeliner.
Yeah.
that opens the eyes of wisdom. Then, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara. The Guru is also considered to be Brahma, the creator. When I say Brahma, the creator, it simply means that the Supreme Being in the aspect of creation. It need not necessarily mean a separate being as such. Vishnu is the sustainer. When something is created, it has to be sustained. And Maheshwara is the destroyer. Because when something is created, at some point it has to be destroyed. Because if you don't destroy the old, there is no space for the new. So, basically regeneration. So, it's a kind of spiritual recycling. So, this, and then we also go down Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, ultimate supreme being, we consider as the Guru, and we go down. This is the prayer. So, if you don't want to use the words, you can keep the thought in mind. But it would be also nice to chant the words. Now, if you don't want to by heart the entire prayer, you can do the last portion. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri. Last sentence can be used because it's not so difficult to learn. So this is the thing. Plus, a guru need not necessarily be a human being or a human form. All lessons that are learned from all living beings on earth, all those beings can be called gurus in a way. There is a beautiful book called the Dattatreya Gita. Dattatreya is considered to be one of the greatest of yogis and gurus who wandered the earth with no conditioning, absolutely unconditioned, no connections, no attachments. Dattatreya. Now there is a thing called the Dattatreya Gita written by him, supposed to be written by him, where he says he had 22 gurus. So how is it that did he go from one guru to another? No. He says all the lessons that he had learned from different living beings on this earth, he considered all of them as gurus. Like he says he learned from the bees how to gather sustenance little by little from different flowers and convert them into sweet honey and store it up. So he considers the bee also as his guru. And he considers the ants as his guru because he learned from them how to store food for a rainy day. Things like that. So, guru need not necessarily mean all the lessons that we learn and where the lessons come from. That source automatically becomes the guru. This also we have to bear in mind. And the word guru itself is made of two syllables, gu and ru. Gu, ru. Gu means hidden. It's a short form of guhya. Guhya means that which is hidden, which is in darkness. And Ru is the short form of Rudra, the destroyer. So Guru actually means destroyer of ignorance, or the one who destroys the hidden, the thing that wraps truth and hides it from us. So this is the meaning of the Guru. Now, if you look at it this way, your cook, your chauffeur, your husband, your wife, they could all be gurus at different times, in different situations, provided we are ready to learn from them. That's a different matter. Are we open to learning? Yesterday we discussed the Upanishad, the knee portion we discussed in between. Are we ready to learn? If we are, then there are many gurus. It need not necessarily be somebody sitting here and talking. Right? And when also a real spiritual teacher need not have any external paraphernalia. For all you know he may be your neighbor and you wouldn't even recognize him. There is no paraphernalia by which you can find out. Yeah, there are a few things, like he would definitely be a kind person, and he would definitely be tranquil under all circumstances. And you see there's something different, but you can't actually make out. But then there is no special paraphernalia by which you can make. Well, does he have big hair or matted hair? It's not required. Right? So, before we go into yoga, I want to tell you a Sufi story. This is from the Sufi tradition. That's also a great tradition. Unfortunately, Sufis have been in some way associated with only Islam, which is not true. A Sufi basically is a mystic who is looking for the truth, belong from any tradition. That's what the Sufis think. So, there is this Sufi story about a man who was a very big businessman. Now, in the Middle East, when you say businessman, you must be a merchant with caravans and so on. So when he was a very young boy, he had this great inclination to understand the spiritual truths and go deeper into mystical experience. But he also had, he was born very poor, so he also had this desire to become rich. He suffered a lot, so he thought he must become richer. Over the years, the desire for the truth was overtaken by the desire to become rich, so he became a rich man. And the other seed of spiritual growth was kind of abandoned. He became a rich man, and then when he was around 50 years old, 55 years old, he decided, now I have understood what money can buy. Beyond this, money cannot buy anything. So, what next? So he said, there was this spark of spiritual inquiry in my mind. So let me go back to that and see if I can do anything at this point. So he called his children and said, well, you take this company, whatever you trade, and run it, because I don't want to do anything now. I want to just enough money to build a little house in an oasis away from home, where I can stay in solitude and pursue my primary interest, which is in the spiritual realm. So he said, okay. So he built himself a little place in an oasis, went into solitude. But meanwhile, while he was doing business and so on, he was very much interested in spiritual matters. So he had collected a big spiritual library of books. So he took these books and went. Now, having become a rich man, in the Middle East and in India and so on, here it's different. When people become big, they don't cook, they don't drive, they have a chauffeur, or they have cooks. So he had forgotten even how to make a cup of coffee, or whatever they drink, I don't know. So he decided to hire a cook so that he can be free. He can do his reading, meditation, or whatever. So a man came from the village and said, I'm a good cook, why don't you take me? He said, fine, come along, but don't disturb me. He said, okay. So he took him and went into this little house in the oasis and lived there for some time, studying. He studied there for 7 years. At the end of 7 years, it occurred to him that this particular thing which I am exploring can't be found without help from someone who has already walked on this path. It's full of pitfalls, you might fall into a trap. So it became clear to him after 7 years that he needed a teacher, one who has already walked on the path. So he said, let me search for a teacher now. So he went out into the deserts and into the oasis looking for teachers. He met many. He was not satisfied. One day he saw a man who he thought was very much according to his image of a teacher. We all have images of a teacher, right? So this was his image of a teacher with a big beard, flowing beard, and a turban in the head. You're not a Sikh, really. And a long robe and a rosary. And a very solemn and serious face. So he bowed down to him and said, "Sir, why don't you accept me as your disciple? I think you are a great teacher." So this man said, "Look, first of all, how do you know that I am a great teacher? You have no way to understand. Second, you say, accept me as a disciple. I got to think about this seriously. Even if I decide that I accept you, I can't do it without permission from my own teacher. So I have to ask him and then take you on." So the man said, "Why don't you ask him? Take me on." He said, "Therein lies the problem. Because my master has disappeared for 7 years. I don't know where he is. I can't find him. If I find him, then I will ask him and then I will accept you as my disciple." He said, "Okay." He said, I'm searching for him." So this man said, "Can I assist you in the search? Because I'm very eager to find him, because you find him, you ask him and then you teach me. So I help you, I assist you to find him." He said, "Sure." So he said, "We'll start with the description of the teacher." So this man said, "Well, he's a very short and slim man. Generally doesn't wear upper garments. He just has cloth on his shoulders. And he's a good cook." Say that again, give me the description. So he gave him the description. He said, "Wait a minute, can you come with me to my house? This sounds like my cook." So he took him home, and as they entered, the kitchen door opened, and out comes the cook with a towel on his shoulder. And this man falls at his feet, prostrates, and says, "Oh, master, where were you all this time?" He said, "I was cooking for this guy." "Yeah, but he's still looking for a teacher." He said, "Yeah, it took me 7 years to make him realize that he needed." So now what? Now you can teach him because I have other work to do. And walks out. So the moral of the story, the Sufi story, is that really a person cannot find out where the teacher is. The teacher has to find the student. You see? But how do we find out? A brain that has a mind which has expanded beyond ordinary things cannot really be understood by a mind which is not expanded to that. We cannot. But the search has to